Hey folks, welcome back to another video with yours truly, Sam Healey. This isn't really a review, not really an an informational video. This is more of an instructional video, I guess you could say, just to kind of walk you through how to put the miniatures for RuneWars Miniatures Game from Fantasy Flight, how to put them together. We had a snafu happen in getting our copy of RuneWars, so everybody else pretty much got the jump on us as far as getting videos out there on it. So I'm taking my time with this one. This is just going to be about the miniatures and how to put them together and my thoughts on how the miniatures turned out as far as final product is concerned. And then I'm going to be doing another video on the actual game, the playthrough and all of that kind of stuff, my thoughts on the game itself. This video, however, is just going to be about the miniatures and what I think about them. So let's go ahead and get down to the table and we'll go from there. And so first off, with our RuneWars Miniatures tutorial video, or whatever you'd like to call it, we're going to start off with the Spearman from the Decan Lord's side. And so basically, as you can see, each of the models has basically three different pieces to them. And they are push fit to an extent. However, the rulebook does say that you should use some super glue to put them together because I have found they do not fit if you just push fit them. You do need to glue them. If you don't glue them, every time you store the game, they're just going to pop apart as they're being stored unless you're incredibly careful with how you handle the box during storage. So with that being said, what I'm just going to do is basically show you how each of the different models will fit together. Now, a couple of things before we get started is that each model has a specific joint, as you can see here, and that joint is specific to the hole that it is going to fill. So you will have to spend some time finding the right joints for the right holes. So basically what I do here is I just make sure that a little bit of super glue gets down into that hole, and then take the joint that is supposed to fit in there and just join it like so. And then you hold it for just a few seconds, making sure that the bond begins before you pull away. And once that's done, you can go ahead and let the glue work its magic. So that's part one of his shield. Part two is going to come along. Again, just put the super glue into that hole and get your piece and match it in there the way it's supposed to be. And then you just hold that piece on there for a few seconds. Just a few more seconds. And now that he is put together, we can go ahead and set him off to the side and start working on the next one. And so then you have your squad of models that go in there. By this time, you can start taking the first one you did and just fit him into that base however you'd like. And with the Waykar Spearman, you're pretty much going to be doing, the Reanimates. Waykar Reanimates are going to be pretty much the same idea here, where you have three different pieces, sometimes just two, but they all just have to be push fit together. But again, you will need to glue them, so it's a very simple process, just basically different molds that go on there. So he'll go on here first, like so, and I did find that you need to be careful with these guys. Their legs are pretty thin and a little rubbery, so if you apply pressure from just the base, you'll probably get a lot of bending going on, and you'll have to fix that a little bit later on. But these parts right here are not very strong. So that's that. We have a little piece needs to go on here, just like so. So then once you're finished with those, you can go ahead and place them in the bases like so, just like with the Dakan Spearman. And then with the Wakar Reanimate Archers, these guys are somewhat a little bit more fiddly than the other ones because, first of all, they have this thing that is really flimsy. It's the arrow, of course, and I appreciate all of the design that went into it, don't get me wrong. However, fitting these guys in is somewhat problematic, and when you're going to be dealing with super glue, it has to be done in a somewhat efficient manner, so you'll really have to kind of test fit before you get into all of this so that your super glue doesn't dry while you're trying to fit the different arm joints into the proper sockets. So you'll have to play around with it a little bit, but generally what I'm going to do, I think, is just put the amount of super glue that I want in each one first, and then work with the actual fitting as we go. And once you have them all done like this, you can just start putting them in the base, just like the other figures as well. Of course, you probably want to get same models with same models and all that good stuff, as I said before, but now these guys are done too. Really fiddly though. And that moves us on to the Dakan Cavalry. Now these guys are a little bit bigger, so they're a little bit easier to work with, I think, especially for my little meat hook fingers that I have here. Again though, one of the uniform things that I do like about it is that each model pretty much has 2 to 3 pieces on it for the infantry and cavalry. You get to the other ones, you have a few more, but generally speaking, there are very few parts of each model. So that's a cool thing. So first thing for this guy, we will just put some super glue in here, like so. Doesn't have to be much because it does work pretty well with the plastic, and you just go ahead and push fit that. The glue will help it bond, and then his head and cape go into the back here like so. So on this one I usually just put the glue somewhere on that spine so that I see that it goes into both of those sockets, and then this guy just pushes right onto it like so, and you hold it there for just a few moments. Make sure that that glue is bonding. Usually you can count to about 10 seconds. 10 seconds should be more than enough for this kind of model, at least because of the joints and everything like that. Here you just push fit these guys. You may have to go from the bottom just to make sure that the peg right here goes into that little socket joint right there, but generally speaking, these guys are set as well. And that brings us to the Carry Wraithstalker model, which is going to get one of these guys as well. So again, this one has a bunch of different pieces to it. Again though, not a whole lot, just 3 for the actual model, and then you got 2 for the base as well. So again, not very bad as far as number of pieces that are required. So the first thing we do here, again, just putting that glue into the socket, like so, and then putting that onto the model in the correct fashion. So go just like that. And again, be careful, don't grab it by the base, because the legs and feet are pretty bendy as far as that's concerned. Just hold that in place for a few seconds, and that should be good to go. Then you take the other socket here and put a little bit of glue in there, not much again, And this one, you need to be careful. Make sure you're gripping the torso and not the legs or the base, because you do want to make sure that everything goes in. Now, this one you have to kind of fit the arrows and everything like that in here, and then move that thing over like so, because the arrows go in between her cloak and the shoulder part of it. So once that is set, you're pretty good to go. And after you get the base and everything like that the way you want to go, then you would click the base onto this guy right here, just like so, and then the base goes into this one like that. Then we come to the rune golem, and he is going to be fit onto this base like so. He does actually have some joints on the underside of his feet that fit onto these places right here like so. So you want to make sure that you do get those fit, test fit them first just to make sure that they're good to go, and then a little bit of glue here. Just want to make sure I get around the edges of it, really, maybe a little bit down in between as well, and then push, and again just kind of hold that for just a few seconds to make sure it bonds a wee bit, and then you can pretty much move on from there. Next thing I would be doing is probably, I'm going to go ahead and do his arms first, and then the other one is going to be going on over here like that. Again, you always want to try to make sure you test fit the things before you go into it, because you just want to make sure you have the right orientation and so forth and so on. Here, I'm going to put it on the actual stud. So it's kind of the same thing as putting it in the socket, but just on the other surface. So whatever makes it easier for you is pretty good. And then just hold that for a bit to make sure it starts bonding, and you do the same thing on the other side. And again, just a dab, not a whole lot. And like so. And hold it for a bit. Almost made a big boo-boo because we forgot his sash belt thingy. So we're going to go ahead and fit that on as well. We need to make sure that we're getting it the right direction. Looks like that's his front, right like that. So for this one, we just need to make sure we have some connection around the inside, like so, right there. Let me go ahead and fit that on like so. Then we're going to go ahead and fit this back on like originally planned, and that looks much better. And now that he is all put together, you can fit him into his base like so. And he's ready to go now too. That takes us over to the Carrion Lancer. So this big giant worm that's being ridden by a reanimate soldier. First things first is you take this base here, and you just want to get around the edge so that you are just providing a little bit of bonding surface there. And this one's where you're probably going to want to use a little bit more than normal, just so that you have a good stick there. And you just fit it on there just like so. Give it a few seconds to bond, although it's going to have a lot of time to bond as you're working on the other parts of it. So again, test fit, make sure that it is going to fit on the way that you think it's going to, and then put some glue in there just to provide some surface for bonding. All right, and then he goes on just like so. And then the mouth, you want to make sure that you get the right orientation. So again, test fitting is important, but once you have it ready to go, glue, and there you have it, like so. I'm going to go ahead and do his arm first so that we can take a little bit You don't have to manhandle all of that at the same time. So it's going to go in there like so. Now for the final joining of the two, you just put some glue there and fit that down into it like so. So that is the miniatures for RuneWars Miniatures Games from Fantasy Flight. Now, I know that a lot of people, probably most people who have any desire to paint miniatures and stuff like that, some of them paint them piece by piece and then piece the things together. I don't do that just because for me, what you see is what needs to be painted. All of the other stuff that's underneath this and underneath that, it doesn't need to be painted. You're not going to see it. No. I don't think that these miniatures are the best that Fantasy Flight has put out so far. The push joint, the push fit joints of the models for the bigger models and the ones that have a little bit thicker places, yeah, that's okay. But for the skeletons that have really thin arms and really thin legs, it's really kind of a difficulty working those things around. Fantasy Flight has done really good single mold miniatures in the past. I don't know why they're not doing it here. I don't know everything about molds and casts and all of this other kind of stuff, so maybe there's a trade reason why that they had to go with all of these different kinds of push fits and these different joints and how the joints and the sockets are shaped differently. Oh my goodness. That is the one thing that for me was just a complete why. Why did they do this? Because some of the miniatures, the sockets have specific shapes. And the joint that you're supposed to stick into that socket has a very specific shape. And if you don't get it right, it just doesn't work out well. So you have to take a good bit amount of time, probably the same amount of time that you would spend clipping the pieces off of a sprue to find all of the right joints for the right sockets. Oh, that drove me up a wall. Really drove me up a wall. At the end of the day, once you get everything put together, the models look good. I'm sure that painting them is going to be fun as well. I'm sure they're going to have a lot of detail. But see, at the end of the day, I don't think that the models are going to look any different than, say, Imperial Assault models or Descent models or anything like that, where they've used single molds in the past, so I don't understand the departure from single molds. The bigger miniatures, the Carrion Lancer, the Golem, all of those guys, that's really cool. I think that the bigger models using that push fit system, that works out well because they're just easier to handle. They're thicker miniatures, so you're not really, you can apply a good bit of pressure without worrying about, am I going to break this or am I going to snap this guy's arm off or what have you. So the push fit system works well there. I will get into gameplay in another video, as I said before. So this was just about the miniatures. I have to say that I'm ho-hum about the miniatures. I think the detail, once you put them all together, is great. But the process of putting them together and finding all of the different pieces and making sure that you have all of the pieces matched to the different sockets, that was a really tedious area, and that really affected my view of the miniatures for this game. I think they look good, but the process of getting them there was much too tedious for my liking. So that's me. That's just the way it is. That, along with about, $1.50, maybe on up to $4 will get you a cup of coffee somewhere. But that's that. We'll see you guys on the flip side.